It's an honor to have you. As you know, the Chancellor just won a great election, very strong election. Very respected man. I can tell you, we've been on the phone many times talking about some of the problems of the world outside of Germany. And it's very sad what's going on. We both feel that way. What's going on with Russia, Ukraine, and other things we talk about, but Russia, Ukraine in particular. I'd like to see it end, and maybe it'll end, but we get some news there'll be some fighting. Something happened a couple of days ago, and now they do a return, and here it goes. It's not good. He's unhappy about it. I'm unhappy about it. But I think eventually we're going to be successful in stopping the bloodshed. It's pure bloodshed. 5,000–6,000 young soldiers a week are being killed. You know that those numbers.
Yeah, we know the numbers.
They're staggering. They're staggering numbers. But Chancellor, I just want to congratulate you, and I want to welcome you to the Oval Office.
Thank you.
It's an Oval Office that's in very good shape. We like fixing things up and having them tippy-top like they have in Germany. They do that in Germany very much, and we do it here. We're having a very good run. I also had a great election, great win, won everything. Won the popular vote, all 7 swing states, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's pretty unusual to do that. And we have a great mandate from the people, and part of our mandate is we're going to have a great relationship with your country. So I just want to thank you very much for being here, and if you'd like to say a few words.
Absolutely. So, thank you, first of all, Mr. President, for your kind invitation to come to Washington, D.C. I was in this building first time ever in 1982, I told you, when former President Ronald Reagan was in office. So I'm very happy to be here again and to offer our close cooperation with the United States of America.
Yeah.
We are having so much in common, our history. We owe the Americans a lot. We will never forget about that. And so with your German provenance, I think this is a very good basis for close cooperation between America and Germany. So again, thank you. Thank you for the hospitality, and thank you for having your guest house for a night. This is a great place. Great place. Many thanks for that. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
It's a wonderful place. It's a landmark also. And Blair House is it's a nice place to stay. Good. Thank you very much for saying that.
On Russia, are you willing to put more pressure on Putin to end the war by imposing new sanctions on Russia and also on China?
Well, remember, I'm the one that ended Nord Stream 2, going to a place called Germany, come to think of it. I'm sorry I did that. I don't know. But I ended Nord Stream 2. Nobody else did. And then when Biden came in, he immediately approved it. That's the largest, essentially the largest pipeline in the world, going to Germany and other countries. And by the way, we have so much oil and gas, you will not be able to buy it all. I mean, you literally, we have so much, and I hope we're going to make that a part of our trade deal, because we have more than anybody else. We have actually the most by far in the world, probably double what anyone else has. So we'll work on that. I'm sure that's something we'll discuss today.
Mr. President, what do you expect from Germany, and what do you expect from the Chancellor?
Well, first of all, I'm glad to meet, because I've been dealing with the Chancellor, and he's a very good man to deal with. He's difficult, I would say. Can I say that? It's a positive.
Go ahead.
You wouldn't want me to say you're easy, right?
No.
Yeah, he's a very great representative of Germany. I think all we want is just going to have a good relationship. The rest will just sort of follow very easily. We'll have a good trade deal. I mean, I guess that will be mostly determined by the European Union, but you're a very big part of that, so you'll be involved. But we'll end up hopefully with a trade deal, or we'll do something. We'll do the tariffs. I mean, I'm okay with the tariffs, or we make a deal with the trade, and I guess that's what we're discussing now.
Mr. President.
Back there, please. Go ahead.
Mr. President? Okay.
Is Germany doing enough on defense, Mr. President? Is Germany doing enough on defense?
What?
Defense spending.
Is Germany doing enough on defense?
The Chancellor wants to.
Is Germany doing enough on
Chancellor wants to
defense?
spend 3.5.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't discussed it very much. I know that you're spending more money on defense now, and quite a bit more money, and that's a positive thing. I'm not sure that General MacArthur would have said it's positive. He wouldn't like it, but I sort of think it's good. You understand what I mean by that?
I understand.
He made a statement: never let Germany rearm. And I said, I always think about that when he says, sir, we're spending more money on defense. I say, oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a good thing. But, you know, at least to a certain point. There'll be a point when I'll say, please don't arm anymore, if you don't mind. We'll be watching him.
Mr. President, will you lead your troops in Germany? And if I may ask a question to the Chancellor to answer in German for the German audience, how has your first encounter been?
The answer is yes. We'll talk about that. But if they'd like to have them there, yeah, we have a lot of them, about 45,000. It's a lot of troops. It's a city when you think of it. That's good economic development. They're highly paid troops, and they spend a lot of money in Germany. But the relationship with Germany is very important. Yeah, we'll be doing that. No problem.
May I say a few words in German to
Yes,
the German
please.
public? So, danke für die Frage. Wir sind hier im Weißen Haus und ich bedanke mich beim Präsidenten für den sehr freundlichen Empfang im Oval Office in diesem ja, weltweit bekannten Raum. Ich freue mich sehr, hier zu sein und wir bereiten eine Vertiefung unserer Zusammenarbeit vor. Ich freue mich sehr darüber.
Mr. President, you've made freedom of
Do you speak English because you speak such good English? Is it as good as your German, would you say? Do you feel, do you
it's
feel
not
more
my mother
comfortable?
tongue. No, it's not my mother tongue, but I try to understand almost everything and
Yeah, very
to
good.
speak as good as I can.
Very good. You know, it's,
Mr. President,
yeah.
Mr. President, speaking of ending wars in this room, you were very critical of Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. What kind of play is he playing from your perspective? What are his
Well, look, he got hit. He's been doing hitting, so I understand it. But he got hit hard, and I don't think he's playing games. I think I've always said he wanted the whole thing. I thought he wanted the entire everything having to do with Ukraine. That's something that would have never happened if I were president. The election was rigged. I didn't get to be president, but I got to be president now. And I think it's a much more important presidency. Other than a couple of things like that, the war would have never happened. The war with Ukraine, with Putin, would have never happened, ever, not even a chance. And it didn't happen for 4 years. And it wasn't thought of. I used to talk to him about Ukraine a lot. It was the apple of his eye, but he would have never done what he did. And I think mistakes were made by him, but I think mistakes were made by other people. The president should have never allowed that war. Biden should have never allowed that war to happen. If you had the right guy in here, that war would have never happened. Israel would have never happened with Hamas. That would have never happened. The attack on Israel would have never happened because Iran was broke. They had no money. They had no money to give to Hamas or Hezbollah or anybody else. And all of that would have never happened. Inflation wouldn't have happened. It was caused mostly by energy. And the Biden administration messed up my great energy policy. We were down into the 190 a gallon, and it would have never happened. It was caused by energy and their bad spending on the Green New Scam and other things that they spent on. But all of those things would have never happened. But maybe most importantly, the war, Chancellor, with Russia would never have happened with Ukraine. It was something that would have, you know, I dealt with Putin a lot. There was no chance, zero. And you know, a lot of people say, how do you know? For 4 years it didn't happen. There was never a chance of it happening. And he understood the consequences. Now, it's a shame. I mean, when you see all of those people, they came out with a report today that millions of people have died, much more than people thought. And I've been saying that for a long time. The amount of death in that war is far greater than the news has been reporting, or than, frankly, that either side has been reporting. It's a very sad thing. And I can tell you, just speaking for the Chancellor, because we speak about it, he feels the same way. He wants to see it ended. Would you like to say something?
Absolutely. And I'm here, Mr. President, to talk with you later on how we could contribute to that goal. And we all are looking for measures and for instruments to bring this terrible war to an end. And may I remind you that we are having June 6th tomorrow. This is D-Day anniversary, when the Americans once ended a war in Europe. And I think this is in your hand in specific, in ours.
That was not a pleasant day for you.
No, that was not a pleasant.
This was not a great
in the
day.
long run, Mr. President, this was the liberation of my country from Nazi dictatorship.
That's true. That's true.
And we know what we owe you. But this is the reason why I'm saying that America is again in a very strong position to do something on this war and ending this war. So let's talk about what we can do jointly, and we are ready to do what we can. And you know that we gave support to Ukraine, and that we are looking for more pressure on Russia. The European Union did, and we should talk about that.
We will talk about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's good timing. The numbers for our country are through the roof, the economic numbers, because of the election and because of tariffs and other things, a lot of things. But we've had some of the best numbers we've ever had. They were reported yesterday, the day before, and even today. The country's doing really well. I think that one of the things you'd be most interested in is that 6 months ago, we were having a hard time getting anybody to join our military. I mean, they just couldn't do it. The numbers were record low. We couldn't get people to join the military. It wasn't me. This was before I got there, the past administration. But 6 months ago, a year ago, the numbers were record low. You couldn't get them to join. That included the police. And you couldn't get them to join. Now, we just hit the highest number in the history of our country, we think, but very close, but the highest in the history of our country, recruitment, joining the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, police forces all over the country.
What did you do for that? What was the reason?
Spirit. They love our country again. You know? You're going to do the same thing. Spirit. We have great spirit is back in our country, and it's very simple. And, you know, it was only, Susie, 6 months ago, right, that you got reports. You're the one that released them that you couldn't get anybody to join the military, and now we're stopped. Every service now is packed, and we have waiting lists of people trying to get in, as good as we've ever had in the history of our country. So that's an honor. That's a great honor.
Mr. President,
on the war.
On California.
You've asked. You've had enough. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, so would you consider to put more sanctions on Russia? Because this discussion is going on now for weeks and months, and you tweeted about it once, but then nothing happens. So
Yeah, when
I
I see the moment when we're not going to make a deal, when this thing won't stop,
is there a
if
deadline?
that moment, yeah, it's in my brain, the deadline. When I see the moment where it's not going to stop, and I'm sure you're going to do the same thing, will be very, very, very tough. And it could be on both countries, to be honest. You know, it takes two to tango. But we're going to be very tough. Whether it's Russia or anybody else, we're going to be very tough. That's a bloodbath that's going on over there. And when I see the moment where I say, well, they're going to just keep fighting. You know, I gave the analogy yesterday when I spoke to President Putin. I had a 2-hour and 15-minute call with him. Sometimes, and this is me speaking maybe in a negative sense, but sometimes you see two young children fighting like crazy. They hate each other and they're fighting in a park. And you try and pull them apart. They don't want to be pulled. Sometimes you're better off letting them fight for a while and then pulling them apart. And I gave that analogy to Putin yesterday. I said, President, maybe you're going to have to keep fighting and suffering a lot because both sides are suffering before you pull them apart, before they're able to be pulled apart. But it's a pretty known analogy. You have two kids, they fight. Sometimes you let them fight for a little while. You see it in hockey. You see it in sports. The referees let them go for a couple of seconds, let them go for a little while before you pull them apart. And maybe, and I said it, and maybe that's a negative because we're saying go, but a lot of bad blood. There's some bad blood between the two. I have to deal with it, and the Chancellor has to deal with it. It's incredible. The level of, there's a great hatred between those two men, but between the warring parties. Great hatred.
You say and believe apparently that there's no immediate peace.
What?
That there's no immediate peace. There will be no.
Well, I can't. I'd love to have immediate if I could. If I could, but we don't have immediate. You know, it's like I'd love to have that. I'd like it to start right now. We would leave a room if we knew the war could end. We'd say, forget about you guys. Forget about trade, right?
Yeah.
We'd say, let's go settle it. there's some additional fighting that's going to go on. You know, he attacked, and they attacked pretty harshly. They went deep into Russia, and he actually told me. I mean, I made it very clear. He said we have no choice but to attack based on that.